Okay, we're on the title screen, and I'm switching over to you in 3, 2, 1 now.
All right, welcome everyone to another edition of This Week in Crypto with Santiment. I'm your host, Brian. We should have our founder and CEO, Maxim, joining shortly. September 5th, 2025 is looking like a good day for crypto so far. Bitcoin has rebounded back to a little above 113.2K today. Ethereum also on its way back to 4,500, it seems, with many people targeting that price as either a bullish cross to get back in or as a profit-taking spot based on what I've been seeing across social media. We also have some big weeks from Hyperliquid, Verum Coin, OKB continues its enormous rally as platform tokens like it and Mantle and some others, even Binance Coin, continue to have an amazing middle of 2025, I should say. We also have BitGet token and Meta Games coin having 5% to 10% plus weeks. So there are some movers in the markets, but it's actually been a rather tight, consolidated kind of week where there is not too many enormous divergences, at least among the top 60-ish market caps that we're looking at right here. You can also see the social volume has kind of reflected that when volatility actually goes down like it has been, you see less discussion about crypto markets overall, as most reflected by Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin seeing a little more than 10% less discussion about it compared to a week ago. Ethereum has really seen a drop in interest among the crowd, which could be very good news for the patient hodlers out there that are looking for a rally or a signal that Ethereum is finally going to get to that coveted 5K mark. You want to see less interest, and 31% less interest this week compared to last is certainly a signal that traders have moved on and trying to find other opportunities in the markets these days, which there always are plenty of, whether they're self-propelled or not. The crowd is constantly kind of moving on to the "What have you done for me lately" coin, and Ethereum kind of had a massive run in July and in early August before kind of coming to a halt and hitting that all-time high, just like Bitcoin did in the middle of August. And so now, the question is, I'm going to pull up the watch lists actually, because I think that's going to be a good thing to keep an eye on. The question is, which sectors are kind of emerging next? And I immediately see that meme coins have been having a bit of a, mini breakout. None of these sectors are in a huge state of decoupling from the rest of the markets. But if I open up the meme coin watch list here to look at it in more detail, we should see a few coins that have really emerged. There's always kind of if you're looking for volatility, it starts with meme coins because there's going to be a massive variation of performances from one another. This is just in the past one day. You see meme core up 30% on the day. If I switch over to a week, the big breakout was unstable coin, USDUC, which is funny because it's a play on USDC, which does not move at all. And ironically, USDUC, which is an unstable coin, is up almost 40% on the week. Purple Pepe almost up 40% as well. You have Book of Ethereum. Boba Appa, first time I've ever seen that coin. Many of you may have watched it for weeks and weeks for all I know. But GameStop also up 21%. Plenty of breakouts all the time. But that's the thing with meme coins. You see these nice performances from, 1/10, maybe 1/15 of these coins. But the vast majority, 80% or so, are down money on the week, even though Bitcoin is up on the week itself and should be theoretically carrying a lot of the markets. I think I might have heard Maxim just join the call. Brother Max, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear, how you like to say.
Good to hear you, my friend. How is everything?
Looks good. If you mean...
Whoops. Sorry, I may have just done that. I'm getting a crackly noise from you, so I'm just trying to mute and unmute you to get you back.
And?
Nothing yet. I think you're probably going to sound fine on the stream though. So, okay. This is just something with my settings. I don't know why, but you should clear up in a few seconds. So what I want to know from you, Maxim, is what are you watching in the markets right now as we're seeing a bit of a recovery to end the week?
So simple and yet so complex question you like to ask, brother Brian. Of course,
Always.
price action, it's the one thing which is always tells the whole story. And comparing as usually by default, okay, what stocks, gold, and crypto doing, understanding narrative. And inside the crypto scene, if we have extreme behavior of, let's say, meme coins or altcoins, which we don't, at least at the moment, yeah. It might change during the day, of course. And of course, today was a big chunk, as always, first Friday of a month economical data, which is used by speculators, I think, together with Fed decisions as the most trigger to activity. And based on the current, let me see, check the price. I didn't check it the last half an hour. Okay, so it's still like trying to push high. So there is, in my opinion, obvious speculation on imminent rate hike. Oh, sorry, rate cut. Sorry. Because I didn't analyze in details economic data release, but from the first glance, it looks weak. And market reaction seems to be reacting like there is no other choice. Fed will have to cut the rate. So let's try to front run this decision. If even, I guess we all agree, this front run decision, this would have been happening long time. Actually, now when I think about all this all-time high in Ethereum or in Bitcoins and in Ethereum, and actually happened in anticipation of rate hikes, combined, of course, with DAT, digital asset treasuries. And after this, the market kind of corrected, overshoot, yeah. And uncertain, will we have rate hike or maybe, or rate, why I keep saying rate hike, rate cut, or maybe Powell will find the reason not to do it. And then, of course, market, part of the risk was taken, because if there was no rate cut, it would go even like much lower. Yeah. So this is a game, and now seems like there is no other choice. They will have to cut the rates, and market try to decide, okay, this the latest tops, is it really tops or not? And we have to understand now on the level of data, or try to understand. It will not be easy exercise, Brian. I tried yesterday with Maxim, another Maxim. It was difficult. Yeah. Okay. Short summary. I don't know how clear or concise it was, but
no, I think you nailed it. I do believe that a lot of the optimism that's at least kept Bitcoin and crypto afloat has been related to the rate cuts. And you can see posts like this. I'm not quite sure what the source is, but people are certainly treating it as fact. The target rate probabilities for the Fed meeting in about 12 days is a 99% likelihood of a cut. So, people are arguably already baking that into the prices now. I don't expect that there will be any major jump at this point if this is confirmed to be true on the 17th. But if for some reason this 1% expectation happens and there is no rate cut, that's going to cause
this
a lot of
1%
chaos.
will earn the most. Yeah,
it's one of those like, we're okay if this expectation happens, but it's disaster if it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it's just full now. 99.7%. Everyone's sourcing this chart, so I presume it's coming from a very reputable source. Rate cuts are coming. Not only did the jobs print come in lower than Wall Street estimates, it also showed that the prior month's numbers were revised downward to show a loss in June. And many of you might be asking, why is this even relevant to crypto? Well, since 2022-ish, early 2022, I would argue that there has been a heavy, heavy correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P 500. This is just a snippet of the past 3 months. I put this up on our socials yesterday. You can see there's actually been a rare divergence here, Maxim, with the S&P 500 going up about 0.4% the past couple weeks, gold up 5.5% in the past couple weeks, and then here's Bitcoin down 6% in the past couple weeks. It's rebounded a little since this post about 16-ish, 20 hours ago, but there's still a pretty big divergence and some upside showing for crypto just based on the fact that for 3.5 years or so, we've seen consistent growth from crypto that's been in tandem with the economy. Here's a bigger, more zoomed out look at it. We'll just go back. We'll just say 2021 even. Basically, ever since COVID started to ease up a bit in late 2021, early 2022, and then we suddenly had that big, fear of rate hikes at that time. That's what the narrative is, and what most believe was attributed to the huge decline in 2022, very bad year for investing in general. But you see the last 4 years here, major climbs. You can see anytime the S&P 500 really started to gain on Bitcoin, Bitcoin caught up, then Bitcoin would drop a little more. And same thing here. The S&P 500 goes up consistently. This was a big divergence. This is probably one of the closest situations that we're seeing now that we saw back in mid 2024. Or I'll just trace it from the same timeline. So the S&P 500 went up during this time about 10% or so, while Bitcoin dropped 13%. That's what I'm talking about in terms of a bullish divergence for Bitcoin, because eventually you see something like this happening.
Actually, it's a bit different to my expectation, even though it's based on old time when I was thinking that Bitcoin and crypto in general, they're easier to move, so they forecast what will happen to stocks. But the data shows it's not, or at least not anymore.
Right.
Last year it was the first time, probably since the ETF and now access through this digital asset treasury company, means through stocks you can indirectly be invested. And now a lot of vehicles is made for Wall Street, and now it's a game far bigger than all our previous participants in crypto market. MicroStrategy won, but there are many other players who, and of course more and more getting listed as IPOs. Now it means Wall Street is playing the game, and likely it will be more correlated, I assume, the stock market now, because for them it's all the same. When I'm thinking, well, one thing will probably remain as before, is that crypto is more volatile. It means if stocks has potential to grow, let's say 20%, crypto can grow 50%. Other way around true. If stock can drop 20, usually when correction happens, it's 10-20. So the crypto can drop up to 50% as well. So both ways works. So it's just a more risky asset. But the direction should more or less be now correlated. Maybe it can be used as a part of strategy. If you believe that crypto underperforming, and there is some narrative supporting why, couldn't play it on the side to it will catch up. Other way around too.
Right. Yeah, there's a large amount of people who believe that crypto is now kind of best treated as a leveraged tech stock, right? We first started hearing about that about 3 years ago. And based on this kind of chart, it more or less is functioning price-wise as a, just a more volatile version of the S&P 500 that doesn't have any sort of debt to equity or PE ratios, but it is strongly correlated with how the U.S. economy and the world economies, to an extent, are doing. So you can kind of treat, at least for the short term, until there's something cataclysmic that changes this, you can treat this correlation as, you know, sort of a way to look at, you know, when is Bitcoin underperforming compared to the S&P 500? That's a time to buy. When is it overperforming like it did, you know, arguably right around here, right after, where Bitcoin was going up way more than the S&P? That's a time where you may want to be cautious because you'll see an upcoming drop often. So there's a lot of opportunities and ways you can look at it, but it's a really relevant time to pay attention because of the upcoming strongly presumed rate cuts that are around the corner.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't in 24 and then end 24, begin 25 connected to very strong narrative. And that time it was Trump or election switch of policies which came together with Trump. Of course, it's now in hindsight, we know what it means. At that time, it was not so trivial. So this decoupling, let's say, or going in different directions, there will be some narrative combined. Why? And in the beginning, you ask what can we look at, what analyze. You know what? I'm still, this very short insight I published even on the Sunbase about heavy divergence on Solana. For me, it's only now two indicators I'm looking at. When this divergence will be resolved, one way or another. If it's not network activity pumping up. It's still the same, yeah? I know probably you have chart, you can show the real data. It hasn't been improved. So this has to be resolved. The reason why Solana and this metric we are showing here, it represents the whole, as a proxy activity of the whole meme coin market. And it's still Bitcoin, yeah?
Yeah, thank you. So Solana is going to look even more extreme than this. Yeah.
Yes.
Huge divergence.
Yes. So it means when you look into this specific, and you can take for 1 year, you will see that it's the first time we see, I think it's the first time we see so strong example when the price is still trying to pump, but the network is not going anywhere. Yeah? Even the last stop there was, if you would look on a shorter time frame, you would see divergence, but so heavy and so long time has to be resolved. Either price goes down to catch up with the network, which is basically has been declining for weeks, or something happens, I don't know what, something being listed on Solana and suddenly network activity explodes, supporting why the price was growing. But this has to be resolved. So it's the first thing I'm watching it. And second, I have an impression that network realized profit loss. It works again on Bitcoin. I don't know why. If you open, you will see. But for everyone on the stream, we released the Solana data recently. I mean, it was in the beta mode for quite some time, but now in the professional use, you can use it. Yeah, network realized. You see? I mean, let's look back December, November 24. Yeah, I remember this last time when we really was sticking to it and say as long as you see this strong network activity or taking profit or coins being moved on Bitcoin network in profit, all good because people are moving it likely to take realized profits, so they don't believe much in much higher prices, all this stuff. And then we saw the second kind of top, which came on a much lower readings. And we say, oh, this doesn't look so good. It works the time. And then I think we switched to some other indicators, but I noticed recently it's still doing quite well. This latest spike, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, happened right on the bottom and indicated the bottom. Maybe it was just an exception, but I would pay attention to it now again. Yeah, so I noticed that I go daily on the chart and I look, anything happened, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think in most cases, these network realized profit spikes are good, whether prices are going up or down.
They're supporting, they're revealing some level of desire, I need to take profits, which is always good because it means market can still grow as long as there is a distribution and it's not, it simply means that there is no total euphoria where no one or almost no one thinks I need to take profits. Then it's not good, of course. But as long as there are some here and there, old Bitcoin hodler begins moving, becoming, sounds crazy, billionaire, but this is what they're becoming. Actually, it's good for the future price growth. It sounds a little bit irrational, but the moment you get used to main task of us is there is extreme euphoria or there is none. So profit taking means there is no extreme euphoria yet. And I like your rocket. So I'm looking resolution of Solana network declined activity and price going in opposite direction, and these. There's only two things where I'm paying attention at the moment. Price action too, but for price action it's probably we can discuss it one day, but it's normally not the main topic of our discussions here.
Yeah, I mean, while we're here, I'm also seeing mean dollar invested age staying low. I think this is a good sign. You see that token age consumed spike that happened right at the bottom. Not a huge one, but the third largest one we've seen of what looks like 2025. I'll zoom in since the start of the year. So technically the fourth largest spike, but either way, you get the idea. These are very often direction indicators. You see the price blast off when we see the biggest one. This one was a bit of a very minor top signal. And then this one was a top signal. And then as prices move down, this would be most likely a bottom signal, which so far is proving to be true. So mean dollar invested age staying low means that there's still plenty of dormant wallets moving their coins, moving their older investments back into circulation, keeping the network stimulated with new movement. And that often is what sparks new bull rallies, keeps prices from plummeting too much, right? So there's some upside anytime you see downward movement instead of this climbing, which would indicate stagnancy. And you see what happens when networks get stagnant, the age gets older and older across the network, and prices generally are moving down during that time.
Yeah.
And while we're on Bitcoin, looking at a few other metrics, transaction volume did see a bit of a spike on the 3rd. It hasn't really moved too much. But it hasn't really come close to what we saw. Make sure we get the last couple days here. Yeah, it hasn't come close to the huge peak we saw in mid-July. I still am a little concerned by the lack of transaction volume since this time, and the utility metrics like active addresses and circulation and network growth are kind of following that same pattern. They're all kind of moving a bit down. You see circulation spiking to its highest in mid-July, and then active addresses and network growth were at its highest in early August. Well, it's been about a month since this spike, and everything is moving a bit down. We'd like to see it going the opposite direction. It's not as extreme as something like Solana, where we see prices moving up as utilities going down, but look for this to turn around a bit as a very strong signal that we can start to rebound, get back to 125K and see, those rocket emojis and party emojis once again across your timeline. We also see in terms of MVRV, 30-day traders are just about break even right now, actually down about 0.5% for all wallets that have been active in the past 30 days. Meanwhile, 360...
Like a neutral signal.
Say it again?
At the moment, it's neutral, doesn't provide you. I'm wondering, you're taking 30 days, right?
Yep, this is 30 days looking at the past 3 months of MVRVs.
Yeah.
So that's neutral, and then 365 days, still a little bit above water, but we're not really in any sort of danger or opportunity zone right now. It's got to just
No, I agree.
we can move either direction, but it's good because compared to what we were seeing in mid-July, these were way overheated, which we were telling people about, and then we finally fell back below on the 30-day, went on a huge run, hit that new all-time high. Both were well above 0% here again, here and here. And then, as MVRV would normally predict, it got it right. Prices dropped. And then we finally got below zero again and have been rising ever since. Not too much on the funding rate side. It looks like this is actually about even right here at the top. So it's only when we go way above that we should be worried. And if I just make this, let's call it 0. Whoops. There we go. Let's try 2. For some reason, it's not changing. Well, for whatever reason, the axis won't adjust here. But what I can say is that the funding rate is not very exciting right now. There still seems to be a lot of neutrality in terms of longs and shorts battling it out. It seems like a lot of people are just waiting for this range to get broken out of before people start to make big moves there.
Or generally, if we're talking about crypto native, we don't trade Bitcoin. I think most of us, I look into it from point of analysis. And as mentioned, to these few metrics, just to understand major sentiment. But if we do trade, we trade somewhere else. Bitcoin is for crypto native too boring. Well, if we are lucky enough to make some profits, we park it there. And forget about for many years, unless there is some extreme indicators for like extreme ultimate top, which we actually start getting. But anyway, could be a bridge to maybe social data and some narratives. And I saw in our Discord channels you've been discussing, or devs updated topics. Some of them looked interesting. Actually, the set of topics looked interesting for me. Did you see it already?
No. What does it entail?
No. This is Alpha Narratives, this weekly updated list of mostly discussed topic for the week. It also reveals a kind of what bothers the participants.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a ton of noise on this latest update. I haven't seen it look like this
that's
before.
the first thing. It means there is no unified or difficult to find unified consensus. But look at the first 6 topics and tell me what you see there.
So we've got AI.
Yeah, and then
Solana.
Yeah.
Then Bitcoin's price.
Yeah.
Ethereum's price.
Yeah.
XRP's price.
Yeah.
And then whales.
Yeah. So there is some story behind. I think it's a kind of, separate topics, but at the same time, nature wants to tell us something. We just need to understand what.
Yeah, people are very top cap heavy from what I'm seeing.
Okay.
These are the top 4 non-stable coins, all showing up in the top 6 of our alpha narratives. And then we've got whales. And then for whatever reason, AI is in there as well. But yeah, clearly there's less focus on the obscure coins at the moment and a lot more kind of battling between the top 4 assets in crypto and people kind of picking their horse a little bit and deciding which one is going to break out next. That seems to be the theme of the middle portion of 2025 from what I've seen.
Yeah. I just saw it, this list of processed topics for the last week, 1 hour ago, before I went to lunch. So I still, it's very fresh, but I saw that it's quite unusual. We don't see so often that the major topics are all about price discussion of major coins. And I remember Ripple, I don't follow it so closely, but there was a quite severe pump, and I assume quite a painful dump thereafter. Is it the case? Did we have how's Ripple is doing?
So XRP, I've seen it being a kind of just in the middle.
Actually, not so painful dump. I mean,
Yeah.
normal.
I mean, it hasn't looked nearly as good as Bitcoin or Ethereum, but it kind of had its big party at the beginning of July,
Yeah.
where it rallied. In this 2.5 weeks, it rallied about 60% or so before a big decline. But yeah, I mean, this other than this big transaction volume spike, where it has rebounded a bit since, there hasn't been much going on. That circulation as well right here.
That's interesting, yeah. So big amount of coins moved.
Yeah, very similar MVRV to Bitcoin. Break even on the short term, a little high on the long term. Very declined whale transactions compared to what we saw in mid-July. This was a clear profit-taking signal. So if you were watching what the whales were doing after that 60% rally, you could have found a very nice exit point here. But I'm sure there will be an entry point coming up. We don't have any, strong opinions about which coins will perform the best long term, but short term and mid term, you'll see a lot of signals like this that we are proponents of. Even right here, you see this big accumulation spike where whales are suddenly getting very active on the way down. That's a clear sign that they're likely trying to scoop up more, just like they were likely selling off here. So whatever direction prices are typically going, you'll see it often come to a halt right after whale activity spikes. So we had 1, 2, and 3 clear signals where prices completely did a 180 after the whales got involved. Let's see, what else? I want to give an update about the key stakeholders for Bitcoin. And right now, it looks like everything is continuing to look pretty strong. Since March 23rd, the wallets holding 10 to 10,000 BTC have added about 225,000 BTC to their wallets. Prices typically follow. They've been up about 29% over this stretch through all the volatility. You talk about bullish divergences. We're down roughly 10% since that spike in mid-August, and the key stakeholders have accumulated about 20,000 Bitcoin during that time. So I like the look of that for the prospects of the next few months, assuming this continues. A few insights that I wanted to highlight really quick. Cardano, huge negative sentiment a couple days ago. We saw a greed spike here that led to a downturn. Then we saw a lot of fear here right before the enormous rally. One more slight greed spike right there. And then this was the lowest sentiment we've seen for Cardano, which normally has a pretty optimistic community on X at least, and other social media platforms. Huge bearish signal from the crowd here. And what do you know? Prices jump up right afterwards. So there's a lot of assets like that that have seen recent huge bearish outlooks from retail. And most of the time, retail gets burned when that happens because prices typically move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectations. I'm taking a live look at Bitcoin now. And yeah, sentiment is heating up a little bit. This was actually the most bullish sentiment we've seen a couple days ago since mid-July, right before that then all-time high. So yeah, it looks like it's going back and forth a little bit, but I'm a little concerned that the crowd is starting to get a little too optimistic here. I don't know if you're seeing differently on your timeline, Maxim, but the bullish sentiment is starting to creep back, especially today. I think there might start to be a pretty legitimate bullish spike coming in by the end of the day.
Depends how we end the day.
Yeah.
These NFP days, they can always surprise. You never know. We might end up lower than expected or higher than expected. So we need to see how. Is it a formula? Yeah, it's a simple formula. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So it doesn't even have to wait till the end of the day. It's all just based on whatever amount of data we have. We can create a ratio from that. So this is only 4 hours now. I'm looking a little more granular. Yeah, I mean, the current hour, not too scary. This is actually pretty negative. You can see how we got super bullish here, and then right after we end up topping. We get super negative here. That ends up being the bottom. So you can see how it kind of goes back and forth quite a bit. You can see right after this drop here on the 24th or so, huge negative spike. Look at all that red going on with the negative sentiment. And then we see a bit of a bounce, further drop. It's really fun to look through this and see how the mood of crypto ebbs and flows. If we go to Ethereum, kind of in the middle at the moment. Just zoom out to daily. Go to the last month. Yeah, I mean, Ethereum sentiment is starting to grow once again too. They were definitely starting to ignore it a bit, but I think the prospect of potentially getting back to 4,500 is getting people excited. Solana, kind of in the middle right now. They, just like Cardano, as I said, there were a lot of assets at the beginning of September that we're starting to see very bearish sentiment. In Cardano and Solana especially, we're seeing very gloomy outlooks from retail all of a sudden. Going back to social trends here, I wanted to highlight the trending stories really quick. So Sun tokens blacklisted.
Almost like our token.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just in Sun, yeah. World Liberty. Not so liberal as it appeared to be. Oh.
No, quite stringent.
Defined liberty, yeah.
Yep. But they froze over $3 billion in World Liberty financial tokens amid accusations of token dumping to suppress prices. Sun denies wrongdoing and calls
The
for the tokens to
scammers
be...
got scammed by others, even bigger scammers. It's ridiculous, but this is where we live.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah.
And this kind of story does affect markets, right? It always, anytime you hear of a huge scam or illegitimate movement, it does erode the trust in a lot of crypto traders who are trying to mass adopt it and make it a regular part of world culture. So even though it's drama and everyone grabs their popcorn when they see stuff like this, I do see, long-term ramifications often happen. Just like the initial stages of the FTX collapse, which was a much bigger story, obviously, than this. But you see for sometimes a couple months, the trust in crypto really start to drop, which, might be a good thing.
It's a building. I mean, good in terms of... it's difficult. First thing to say, it's always difficult to position yourself positively in such an environment. But it's been historically every single market bottom or way to bottom the last 2-3 months. They're always quite clear in terms of sentiment. And they're heavy. I don't think if even when I go down, which is, of course, let's say on Fridays is always first Friday of the month, anything possible. This one, I don't think it will be blamed, and it's obviously there must be bigger story. So I agree with you. People used to it already in crypto. Okay, it's just on a bigger scale, and now, but also World Liberty. What did you expect from them? Yeah. Anyway, I don't believe anyone expected anything really revolutionary, transparent, and honest. And it's just very good that it was proven very fast. And in a sense, respect to Justin Sun who made it happen. I mean, he suffered, but he triggered it behavior very fast. So now no illusions. If even there was not much left to begin with, now nothing is left.
Yeah, I think it's mostly just treated like a meme coin, and most people are kind of aware of the nefarious reputation it has and just ride along with it. If they're investing in it, they're kind of reacting to news and how retail reacts themselves to the news, and you plan accordingly from that. I'm just looking at Tron because obviously Justin Sun's token has been on a pretty good run itself since June 22nd when it had its bottom, when most tokens had its bottom. Went on a 40% run, and since then it's dropped quite a bit, at 9% or so. So Tron is always an interesting one. Still number 9 market cap in crypto. I'm just checking the positivity for it. Yeah, nothing too special right now. It's actually staying pretty low. This is when the news broke, and you can see the sentiment really is not too high for Tron compared to what we saw earlier in the year. So a bit of a bearish outlook for a top 10 crypto asset there. All right. A few other things, and I also wanted to take a look at our activity matrix today. In terms of higher or above, when referencing Ethereum, since I have that up first, we'll just look at the last week. We'll switch to 4 hours. So mostly a pretty high level of higher or above being mentioned with Ethereum right now. The last time we really started to see a lot of bearishness was right at the beginning of September. But you can see here it really flipped over to very bullish, and right when it did, prices dropped. And it's been kind of neutral ever since, still a bit of a bullish bias, but not too bad. And then if we go to Bitcoin, I'll just type it in here really quick. The Bitcoin looks pretty similar right now, still a bit of a bullish bias. This was a very good buy signal right here, just about 24 hours ago when you saw the keywords of lower or below exceeding higher or above. This is what you want to look for as a sign that prices are likely to go up, because when you see lower or below being spammed by retail, it means they're selling on a drop and expecting prices to go lower. And that's typically when we see bottoms happen. Just a quick update also on some of the key names in crypto. We worked on this maybe a month ago, Maxim, but I wanted to revisit it really quick. Here's some mentions of Sailor or MicroStrategy to go along with Ethereum, and Lubin to go along with Ethereum. And the biggest spike seems to be yesterday, Sailor. There was a lot of discussion related to MicroStrategy and their Ethereum strategy. In fact, I heard BlackRock is transitioning a large amount of Ethereum back to Bitcoin. So that's been making some news too. So don't forget that these kinds of big names and notable institutions in crypto are always going to be market drivers as well. In terms of ETF flows, we'll make sure this is up to date here. Yeah, it's been kind of back and forth over the last few weeks. The last big outflows we saw were at the end of July and then mid-August, respectively. Mostly inflows since we did have a big outflow yesterday, but I'm not seeing too many huge outbreaks in either direction. Always a good idea to keep tabs on this, though. If you're watching, it's a completely free dashboard. Just follow this URL. Maybe Max can put it in the chat if he's able to. But yeah, I usually check on this every couple days. The other thing that I check on that we could probably close out on, Maxim, is the activity matrix. Wanted to give a few updates here. You can see for the most part, a lot of these labels are blue, green, yellow, indicating that a lot of crypto has cooled off in terms of their network activity compared to their normal averages. There's a few exceptions. We see crypto.com, very red right now, with high active addresses, network growth, whale transactions. I see outflows, which is a good sign. Mean dollar age consumed. And crypto.com has been one of the hottest tokens for a few months now. If we go to it, yeah, so look at the enormous breakout here in late August. It ended up surging about 137% and is down about 30% since. But its network is still extremely active right now with a ton of polarization. If I just switch to our on-chain metrics here really quick with Chronos toggled, you can see some of the big spikes happening. Yeah, so huge transaction volume, USD spike right at the top. And then another one just a couple days ago, big circulation spike, active addresses, and network growth peaked here. We've talked a lot about address activity and network growth getting really high right as a surge is happening. This is one of the dead giveaways that there's a ton of FOMO and a ton of retail trying to pour in here, and then they typically get burned. Look at MVRV just off the charts, going well above 100% for long term and well above 50% for short term. That was a clear top signal. Whale transactions, tons of whales just taking profit very blatantly here right at the top. Even mean dollar invested age is starting to move slightly. Look at this realized profit spike that happened yesterday, by the way. We've talked a little bit about Chronos, Maxim. Do you have any opinions about this enormous realized profit?
Opinion only one. Someone said, okay, that's enough. Do we see inflow to exchanges? Does it coincide on some aspect?
Yeah, it looks like there was a huge drop that coincided. A ton, actually. I mean, there was 1.8 billion on exchanges, and suddenly there's 1.25 billion. So a drop of about 550 million coins on exchanges, which is almost a third of the entire supply.
What could it mean now? This is a story I did not read anything about yet, but it's quite sizable. Unless they rotated the wallets, or some big exchange rotated the wallets, that would explain the whole story. Old cold wallet will move to the new cold wallet, and then that's it.
Yeah, I see. It coincided. There were 3 huge transactions here, 183 million coins each. And it looks like centralized exchange moving to withdrawal wallets or dead address, it says. Is it possible they're burning?
No, what they're doing sometimes they're minting new one, or they were planning to mint new one.
It's interesting that it says dead address. That's the only confusing part of that. But yeah, it does look like it's centralized exchange wallets moving to withdrawal wallets. Maybe it's something we look into a little more. But anyways, yeah, crypto.com has definitely been the big outlier among the top assets. I do see Wi-Fi down here seeing some heating up. And then if we go to the leaderboard, you can check out which assets are breaking out in one particular category. So for example, storage, KuCoin shares, they're having big active address spikes. Here's another one for network growth, storage again, BNB multi-collateral, interestingly. Unis Sedleo, crypto.com, Ethereum here also still seeing some pretty high network growth. Whale transaction spikes, you see XYO and Wi-Fi seeing their highest days of whale transactions today. That's something you may want to keep track of if you're interested in some volatility for those two coins. In terms of very positive coins. People are bullish toward Golem Network and very bearish toward Reserve, the Sandbox, Gate Chain. Actually, Crypto.com is seeing very bearish narratives today, probably because it's on a 30% downswing. Social dominance. Look at Bitcoin actually having one of its lowest social dominance days today. So could be due to the increased discussions of Cardano, Solana, XRP, as we saw in the alpha narratives, other top caps taking away some discussions from Bitcoin. Lots of exchange flow spikes, the highest outflow days for Crypto.com, Telcoin, and XYO. If you're worried about inflows, keep an eye on Zell, IOs, Wrapped Ethereum, First Digital USD, and actually Chainlink is seeing a high amount of coins moving to exchanges. Crypto.com and Wi-Fi seeing their highest drops in mean dollar invested age. Age consumed, Wi-Fi and Zell, and then overall the hottest networks, the ones seeing the most activity. Doesn't mean they're the most bullish, but it means they're seeing the most activity, therefore the highest likelihood of some upcoming volatility. We see Wi-Fi, Crypto.com, and your friend Maker Balance also in the top 3 here.
Yeah, the price move was quite volatile last week. This week,
yeah. So
we're talking about prices. We might indeed have a chance now to break the recent lows. Moving nice. As you're talking, you didn't have time to check, but yeah, almost there. Like always, 180-degree, typical NFT, non-farmer payroll day.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting time for crypto. You know, we are seeing an end of week rally, but a lot of it is contingent on the rate cuts that people are optimistic about. We should see a lot of volatility related to that topic as we get close. Of course, we won't be recording during our time because the team will be traveling, but we'll certainly have a few updates on our social media talking about the market. So stay tuned for that. We will be back for next week, as far as I know, Maxim. It should be one day before we all start to travel. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, my outlook is, you know, it doesn't look terrible. I don't think we're going to really plummet, but I don't see us instantly moving toward an all-time high. If anything, the news about the rate cuts should have moved prices more. And the fact that they're not means there's some limitations to our upside at the moment.
I'm still looking for resolution of heavy divergence on Solana. Until it's resolved one way or another, I prefer going down. I even have sunset signal on Sana since last week and still cannot break much lower. So once it's done, yes, I will reassess sentiment. We will get to doom and gloom, good, then we go up. If we don't and still keep seeing in the stories, but digital asset treasuries will buy for billions of dollars, well, you know, we still need to continue down. This is what I'm doing here. I'm not buying anything at this level yet. Actually, if even I did sell some Ethereum, but one portion was below current level, one was above. I mean, I'm in no man's land at the moment. Waiting. When is rate decision? 15, 17?
17th, yep.
17, yeah. Still plenty of time, 2 weeks. I mean, my market can go all the way up and down, or all the way down and up in this 2 weeks. And we're not so far away from tops yet. So it's can punish impatient participant now quite heavily. Need to be a bit patient now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining, Maxim. Appreciate the time as always and your great insights. Thank you for running the stream, Max. And we will see you all next week. Stay tuned for more updates on our socials. We'll talk to you all next week.
Talk to you next week, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.